I know what you're thinking. What is this game, and what does it have to do with Mega Man? Well, to be honest, not much. But there are a couple similarities to past Mega Man titles that I will get into later. This is Dragon Marked for Death, Inti Creates' newest multiplayer-focused action RPG. You may remember Inti Creates for creating the Mega Man 0 NZX series, as well as Mega Man 9 and 10, and various other games you probably heard about at some point if you follow my channel or the Mega Man fandom at all. Aside from that, this is an independent studio that is well known for creating high quality 2D sprite based games, and they've been on a roll with their Nintendo Switch releases over the past 2 years of its life. And that is why I just had to check out what they're cooking up next with Dragon Marked for Death, which is being worked on by the same team behind the beloved Mega Man 0 series. Actually, Dragon Marked for Death has had a very long 10-year development history, starting life as a Nintendo DS game, moving over to the PSP, before finally making its home on the Nintendo Switch. We even saw a delay from December 2017 all the way to January 31st, 2019. So, was the long wait worth it? Let's mark this dragon for review and take a look. Dragon Marked for Death takes place on the dragon-shaped continent of Remlia. The lore begins with a terrible clash between gods and dragons, known as the Celestials and the Astral Dragons respectively. After eons of conflict, the Celestial Primatus defeated the leader of the Astral Dragons, Atrum, and plunged them into the earth. Thus the Celestials came out on top as victors of the war, and they went on to revitalize the lands, purified all the dragons' bodies with 5 holy weapons to create the continent that we know today. They also created 2 moons in the sky to watch over the land, and left the realm. However, there was a small clan of humans who were caught up in the war and on the brink of death. So after Atrum fell to the earth, he offered this clan of humans his own blood in order to form a blood contract that would save him from death. However, everyone born to the clan from then on would bear the dragon scar on their body, and they would worship the Astral Dragon as their guardian. This clan would become known as the Dragon Blood Clan. Meanwhile, loyal followers of the Celestials that would become known as the Divine Family built kingdoms and named themselves rulers of the land, all the while brainwashing everyone to think that the Dragon Bloods are filthy, of impure blood, bad people, and all that jazz. Dragon Bloods are therefore considered the lowest of the low class in society. The Divine Family and all the townsfolk hate the Dragon Bloods. So for pretty much the whole game, practically everyone you meet acts super racist towards you for really no good reason. Why is that, you ask? Because your character is a Dragon Blood themselves. You are a survivor of a small village that was destroyed by the Divine Knights. Yeah, the Divine folks like to go around and destroy all the Dragon Blood's homes to force them into exile just because they hate them. Why does the Divine Family hate Dragon Blood so much, aside from that ancient war way back in the day? I don't know, I guess one of the Dragon Bloods looked at them funny or something. Either way, sounds like a bunch of bullies to me. So while your character is grieving over the destroyed village, the Astral Dragon Atrum comes into contact with you. He's like, "Hey man, why are the Divine Family being such jerks? I was a good sport about the war and haven't done anything since. And here they are being tyrants and hunting down our clan. So in order to get revenge on the Divine Family, Atrum grants you the power of the Astral Dragon, and you're sent on your way to the Imperial Capital City in the Kingdom of Medius to confront them. He also informs you that there is one other survivor from your village, the Dragon Blood Oracle, Amika, who in the opening cutscene was taken hostage by the Divine Knights. It's a mystery why the Divine Family wants her, because oracles are only born once in a century and they have a certain power that isn't really explained at the beginning. However, to actually gain an audience with them to ask what they are thinking, you'll have to raise your status in the world by taking on quests at the local bar in the slums, full of people that have also been oppressed by the Divine Family. The opening scene of the game is eerily similar to the opening scene of Mega Man 01. You have a girl running away from an army of bad guys. You have a large structure containing a hero or a god that when activated, awakens the hero of the story. One of your goals is to help out said girl who has a fair bit of importance to your quest. The other goal is to help a small faction on their last legs to punish a group of tyrants? Yep, sounds a lot like Zero One's plot to me. You thought I wouldn't notice, didn't you, Inti? And that's the main points you need to know about the lore. I do like the setup, and Inti Creates has clearly put a good amount of thought into this lore. There were a couple of times in the story where I wish that your character could speak what's on their mind or to explain their thought process behind what they're doing, especially when at one point in the game you end up fighting against members of your own clan. But we never do because they are a silent protagonist. Yep, they never speak or show any emotion over the course of the whole story. Which I believe is something that's lacking from this game's story is personality. Having the main characters mute in the cutscenes kills a good bit of opportunity to flesh them out and make them, well, interesting. The thing is, the 4 playable characters who I will introduce later are pretty interchangeable in the story. It's all the same dialogue and everything, just with whatever character you chose displayed on the screen. This way nobody misses out on the plot, I guess, but at the cost of individuality among the 4. There's nothing about their character to set them apart other than from a gameplay and visual standpoint. They're essentially blank avatars for the sake of roleplay. Whether that is your thing or not is for you to decide. Dragon Marked for Death is presented in Inti Creates' trademarked pixel art style that harkens back to the 32-bit days of gaming. The character sprites and backgrounds are beautifully detailed, animations are smooth as butter, and everything looks visually clean while running at a rock solid 60 frames per second on both docked and handheld mode, proving once again that Inti Creates' pixel artistry is among the best in the business. The maps themselves, I do admire the variety in the settings. Yes, there's a stereotypical forest, snowy mountain, and poisonous swamp, but in addition, there's some less common stuff like a ship, a Chinese themed temple, a tomb, a wind temple, and even inside the belly of a massive sea monster. I also want to give special mention to the artwork in general, which is illustrated by Toru Nakayama, who is responsible for the designs in the Mega Man Zero and ZX series. You can really see the similarities between the illustrations in Dragon Marked for Death and those in the Zero and ZX series. I know that distinct visual style anywhere. It's all eye candy and I can see the love and care put into it. In the music department, this title is actually a bit special because it is Inti Creates' first time using a fully orchestrated soundtrack composed by the legendary Ippo Yamada, also of Mega Man fame. So in that case, does it deliver? Well, I think the tracks definitely nailed that fantasy adventuring theming of this game. But while the tracks are pretty nice, none of them immediately stood out to me as so catchy I had to immediately add it to my music playlist or anything. That being said, even as I talk about this, there's still a few music tracks from the game playing in my head. So the music is well done, although there was a track or two while out on quests that I got a little tired of hearing on loop. Nothing against the songs themselves, but it's mostly a problem with the quest structure of this game, because the quests in this game are a large time commitment, going up to 30 minutes at a time, and that's a long time to be hearing the same tunes over and over again. It could be pretty bleh. Speaking of, we've gone on a while now, but it's finally time to talk about the flow of gameplay in Dragon Marked for Death. As I touched on at the beginning, this is a 2D side-scrolling action RPG. It plays a lot like a 2D action game like, say, the Mega Man titles, but there are numbers, stats, equipment, items, and all the other basic RPG elements to worry about. The controls feel tight and responsive with no discernible lag or dropped inputs, which is great. Now I do have a couple gripes concerning the controls. The ZL and ZR buttons are not mappable in the options screen. So for guys like me that prefer to have the dash on the trigger instead of the shoulder button, we're out of luck until Inti patches it in. Also, when you get smacked mid-air, you lose all control of your character and they just fall straight down, with no way for you to adjust where they land. Thankfully there's no instant death traps or bottomless pits to worry about in this game, but it's still a minor annoyance. A typical Dragon Marked for Death session will begin in the hub, the imperial capital city of Midias, starting out in the slums along with the rest of the poor and oppressed, but after a few quests you will gain access to the main city too. You can talk to townsfolk who sometimes give you new quests if an exclamation point icon appears over their head. There are also facilities for you to utilize. The weapon and item shops for equipment and healing or buff items that are pretty self-explanatory. Your equipment and item inventory carries over between all 4 characters, which makes things more convenient. Get better weapons or accessories and stock up on items to heal health or bad statuses, which are freeze that slows you down, paralyze that disables your attacks, confuse that reverses your controls, and I never actually found out what burn does because this game doesn't do a great job of explaining basic stuff like this to you. But by far you want to grab antidotes because poison is the worst status in the game. It drains health quickly over a ludicrous amount of time, and can outright kill you if you don't bring items to cure it or get unlucky with enemy drops, which status healing herbs is among them, along with food items that heal and sometimes provide stat buffs, like this jelly-filled donut. I mean, a rice ball. The inn is your home base where you can change equipment, set items for the next quest, and change an assortment of settings like the color, voice, and name setting for your characters. You set these at the beginning, but it's nice to know that you can change anything you end up unsatisfied with later. Though I thought it was a shame that the colors only changed small details like the Empress's head. A full body palette swap would have been better in my opinion. Maybe even let us mess with their skin tone. This is a role-playing game, right? May as well go all in on it. As for the voices, there are 2 sets to choose from. You have the originals, now assigned voice E through H in the latest patch, that are generally alright, but can get pretty ear grating after a while, because there's no variation to the audio clips assigned to an action. In patch 1.1 that's out right now, they added 4 additional voices for every character with professional Japanese voice actors, assigned as voices A through D. And while the execution still suffers from the no variation issue, they still are certainly an improvement over the old ones, and add a bit more personality while giving you some distinct options to choose from. So if you want a girly girl or a tomboy, go for it. The final facility is the bar. This is where you'll take on quests that send you to a variety of stages to perform a specific task, either solo or with a party once again. This game feels like a 2D Monster Hunter in that way. Take a quest, complete it, get sent back to the hub, do your shopping and preparations, and do another quest. Rinse and repeat. That is the flow of the game. As for the character you'll be controlling, you can choose between 4 classes of Dragon Bloods as your main. So in an effort to cater to players with limited gaming budgets, Inti Creates has split up Dragon Marked for Death into 2 versions if you're buying it digitally. Both versions have the full game, but with only 2 out of the 4 playable characters for $15 US each. The Frontline Fighters version has the Empress and Warrior, which are the easiest characters for beginners to understand, and the Advanced Attackers version contains the Shinobi and Witch, that are as the name suggests, but still good in the right hands. If you buy one version on the eShop and want the other set of characters, you can purchase them through the in-game DLC store, so if you get both sets, this is a $30 game. Or if you don't care about the opposite set, you can only pay that $15 to play the full game with 2 characters. The choice is yours. The Empress is your high damage per second character and is actually my own main because she's the closest you'll get to a Mega Man Zero style experience. Well, other than the Shinobi, which I'll get into. She has the 3-slash combo with a sword as the main attack on the ground, and the air slash just like Zero from Mega Man X4. It's really good because you can get in a bunch of hits in a short period by spamming the attack mid-air, and even combine it with a ground combo. What's more, some enemies stagger back from each hit with the sword, and if you catch them in the air, you can keep them there forever and they'll never get a chance to counter. Her A special is sort of a dragon cannon that breathes 3 fire shots of each press. Very good for dealing damage from afar, while you're waiting for a chance to close in like Mega Man Zero's Buster Gun. You can also charge up the cannon to unleash a flurry of fire shots that can deal a ton of damage in a short time, especially if you are up in their grill. Be careful when you use the charge attack, as it takes a few seconds to wind up and leaves you wide open while you're just standing there. And yes, you can get knocked out of the attack. So there's a risk versus reward going on while using the charge attack, but the reward is annihilating when gotten off properly. The special moves can use up Dragon Points, which is the blue gauge underneath your health. Recovering Dragon Points is pretty simple by attacking enemies, and a small chunk can replenish on its own too. Her special art button action is a Dragon Sword that is a bit slow to come out, but when it lands it can easily stagger small enemies. I like to use it at the end of a ground combo to eliminate the wind-up time, while making sure smaller enemies cannot counterattack me during the ending lag of my last strike. While in the air and pressing up, it becomes a dragon whip that serves as a grappling hook to swing across grapple points, either across gaps or to higher up places. Kind of like Zero's chain rod, but not quite, it's more simple than that. And hey, it's fun to swing around when the levels do use it, as long as there's no enemies nearby to knock you off. Sporting blue armor and a giant axe, the warrior is the tank of the group, boasting higher attack strength, health, and defensive stats over the balanced Empress, but at the cost of mobility. He is generally slower and can only get one attack off on the ground that leaves him immobile for a moment. You can, however, combo an air swing into a ground attack to rack up 2 hits at a time. By holding the Y button, the warrior can also charge power into his axe to deal more damage in a single hit and send shockwaves across the ground upon impact. By pressing down and Y, the warrior can perform a tackle that can stun enemies or knock down and push objects, which is how he can progress around obstacles despite his reduced mobility options. With the press of the A button, he uses dragon points to enter berserk mode that lowers his defense but raises attack power to deal massive damage. For using more dragon points, the R button deploys his dragon scale shield that's useful for protecting the party from attacks and slightly healing himself and those within range. Okay, holy Astral Dragon, the Shinobi is a ton of fun to play, you guys. I kinda wish I started with him now. Comparison wise, those of you who love playing Copen from Azure Striker Gunvolt 2 will feel right at home with this guy. Just like Copen, the Shinobi can press R to perform an air dash, colliding if an enemy locks onto them, at which point you can let loose of your basic Y attack or A attack to throw shurikens. You can attack normally with both buttons too, but locking on with the dash is the most efficient. Also, this speedy ninja goes full Mega Man X on you in the mobility department. He can wall jump, he can double jump, and he can glide in midair with the L button. Man, is he a blast to play. He's also the best character to rack up hits to refill the dragon point gauge for you and your party, and also draw aggro from enemies so they'll focus just on you. Wow, I only tried him for a short time in my playtime since I mainly used the Empress, but I think I'll start maining this guy later. The Witch, on the other hand, proves to be a very tactical character. She can shoot lemons just like Mega Man with the Y button. Down and Y releases your pet owl that attacks enemies for a few hits. A button seemingly activates berserk mode like the warrior, but the R button is where the magic happens, literally. After pressing R, you can input a certain command to store magic like wind, fire, ice, levitation to gain height, or healing spells. Then unleash it with Y. You can also level up your spells to produce more powerful effects. It is a lot of button combinations to memorize though, which thankfully you can look up in the pause menu, and some of them are kinda simple, like doing a circle with the buttons to make the healing. But yeah, the Witch is a handful to get the hang of at first. I don't see myself maining her personally, but she's mainly the healer and backup support for the party in multiplayer sessions. I probably wouldn't recommend using her in single player with her low health and how you need space to work your magic, but I can see her being a powerful asset if you're willing to learn her quirks. As you complete quests and defeat enemies, your character will level up. Each level gives you a bonus point that you can assign to any stat that you want. Choose wisely to adhere to your character's greatest strengths. If you're looking to level grind, honestly defeating enemies, even the tougher ones, only give you a handful of experience at a time. We're talking like 1 to 7 experience each. Even bosses only award anywhere from 10 to 30 experience on a good day, which isn't a lot. So your best bet is to focus on completing quests, which is why sometimes I resorted to just running past enemies unless they're blocking my path, because they really aren't worth the time investment to fight. Alright, let's talk about the quests themselves. Each one has a specific objective for you to complete, and a time limit you have to do it in. Either via local play using 4 Switch systems with their own copy of the game, sadly split screen co-op is not available. Or what you'll most likely be doing, play online. You can create or join lobbies for specific quests, with randoms or those registered on your Switch friend list. While the single player experience is playable, it's straight up just not fun. It's a slog and much more difficult than playing with allies, and not in a good way. Enemy and boss health is balanced for multiplayer, so you're stuck with damage spongy bosses that can take one anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to take down by themselves, and that's not even an exaggeration. It's the reason that I've actually ran out of time during quests or got dangerously close to it, and that's never fun. Enemies tend to hit like a truck as well, so healing becomes a priority pretty quick. You do get more lives to yourself than you would in multiplayer, but I personally don't think this was enough to balance the difficulty. Enemy health could definitely be toned down a bit. Now I also got the chance to finally try online multiplayer with some Japanese folks overseas prior to the North American launch. So I can tell you how much better the multiplayer is. You can search for open rooms with a couple filters like difficulty level, or make your own room for a specific quest. Up to 4 people can be in a room at a time, and from the lobby screen, you can adjust your equipment and items, which is a godsend so you don't have to run back to the end all the time. Plus, you can communicate with your party both in the lobby and in-game through some pre-prepared messages. Now let me just say, my experience of the online was wonderful. The connection was strong, no discernible lag other than one of my partners warping for a couple of seconds, but that's not a big deal. On the whole, not bad at all. Not to mention, holy cow, this game is so much easier this way. Boss health is actually manageable now, and with 3 people I completed an otherwise 30-minute quest in only a little over 10 minutes, boss included. Yeah, the time limit is very forgiving now when you're playing multiplayer. There's no compromises either, as all the story cutscenes still play, and the game will wait for all players to finish watching the cutscene before continuing. That way everyone could go at their own pace. In addition, when one player reaches the boss, the game will ask everyone if they want to enter the fray with the press of a button. The online implementation is brilliant and was a freaking night and day difference in comparison to the single player experience. Online mode is a blast, and it's cemented in my mind now that this is the definitive way to play Dragon March for Death. As for the quests themselves, well, the objective and quality of them can vary pretty wildly in my experience. You'll find yourself doing standard levels of bosses at the end, and I do enjoy the boss fights, as long as it's not single player. They were generally well designed. Some fights can be tricky, but they do have learnable patterns that I picked up on quick. There's also escort and defense missions, and some miscellaneous missions like knocking fruit off a tree into poisonous water to purify them, or helping a scientist with his balloon experiment by locating it as you climb up the wind temple. Then on the bad side of the spectrum, you have the quests that unfortunately put a bad taste in my mouth. And boy oh boy do I need to talk about them. Where my frustrations began was a quest known as the Undying Dragon. This one actually contained a quest breaking bug. Basically you escort a guy without letting him die to his house, and once you get to the house he'll tell you to kill 2 dragon bosses and bring back the samples. Simple enough, except one of the dragons is behind a locked door. There is a horde room nearby that when cleared does drop a chest with a key, but when I go back to the locked door to open it, it simply won't open no matter what I did. And I even tried the quest again multiple times to make sure it wasn't a fluke. Nope, it wasn't a fluke, it literally does not work. So I guess the Undying Dragon really does live up to its name, because it ain't dying by my hands anytime soon. This quest is unfinishable. This next quest is not bugged to my knowledge, it's just straight up frustrating. It's called Unearthed Royalty, and it involves a couple archaeologists giving you a special chest key to unlock one of the 8 chests that are hiding in the deepest part of the tomb level. The whole catch of this quest is once you open one chest, the key that they gave you breaks. Once the key does break, you have to warp back to the guys and show them the thing that you found. If you're lucky, they'll say yes, that's the right one. Or more than likely, that the item you gave them is utterly useless. See, the problem is, there's no way to know which item they want. Not even a hint. So it becomes a guessing game of which of these 8 chests is the right item. And if you get it wrong, oh, lucky you! You get to traverse the entire tomb level again and pray the next one works. Did I mention that you only get 20 minutes to do this? And a trek down the tomb can take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. So there's simply not enough time to see all 8 chests if you get bad luck. And sadly the odds are stacked against you on this one. Oh, but I'm not done. I haven't gotten to the best part yet. So I did finally find the item the guy wanted. It was the torn scarf. Alright, cool. But wait, there was a boss at the end. And despite my best efforts, I lost since I was on my last life and had wasted all my resources even getting to that point. Trust me, it took a few tries to get here. So I say, okay, I'll just grab the torn scarf again and this quest will be in the bag. Right? Right? Utterly useless? You know what, sir? You're utterly worthless. You and your silly quest. Go find your own item because I'm done. I quit. Peace! Well, that's actually the end of my retelling of my experiences with Dragon Marked for Death. Looking from the outside, this game is really solid actually. The art is amazing, the controls are tight, the music is orchestrated and beautiful, the online multiplayer seems to work great. Playing casually or just looking at the surface, it's actually everything I could ask for. But it's when I have to be critical for a review like this, and I just look at this game under the microscope and examine it really thoroughly, small flaws begin to add up to the point that it did sour my single player experience quite a bit. On the other hand, what I played from the online multiplayer was much more enjoyable. I honestly had a blast with it. So my final recommendation is get this game for the online multiplayer and you can't go wrong. Don't bother playing with the single player unless you have to, as it is an absolute slog to play since it's clear that not as much thought was put into game balancing for the solo runs. And there's some bugs and flaws here that need tuning up. If you're looking to try it out for yourself without breaking the bank too much, I say pick up one of the $15 versions on the eShop and go from there. If you love it, great, pick up the DLC. If you don't, at least it was just $15. If you are looking to spend more of your hard-earned cash, there is the $50 physical edition with the sweet box art coming in March. It has all 4 characters, the 2 side quest DLC packs, one that's available to buy now and another questline that's also coming in March. You will also get weapons for each character based on the Azure Striker Gunvolt series, which I didn't get to try sadly, but here they are, you can look at them on the screen right now. These were originally pre-order bonuses, but since the game is already out by the time you're watching this, the physical bundle is the only way to get it now. Anyway, that'll do it for this Dragon Marked for review. I want to say thank you to Inti Creates for letting me check this out early. It has been an honor and pleasure to work with them. And especially thanks to Matt Papa from Inti for working through all my questions and concerns. He's a real trooper. Oh, and to LBD Night Train from the Mega Man Network for putting in a good word for me. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for watching, and for more on Dragon Marked for Death, Inti Creates games, and all things Mega Man, stay tuned to ShadowRockZX. Until next time, rock on, have a great day.